Hi.
Oh, I am Janet Raftis. I am a quantum creatrix, divine feminine channel, master energy healer, and whoa, hold on.
Multidimensional being going live in other places on Facebook. Experiencing simultaneous timelines.
Oh my goodness. No, that's all out of the way.
And I'm Ina Lucas. I'm a shamanic channel. I channel a collective called the Alchemists and work with deep channeled medicine elders. And Janet and I are beloved friends and colleagues, and we do so much sacred activation work together. With clients, and we're excited to drop in here with you guys.
Yeah. Hey, Jade. So we have been getting so many nudges from Spirit lately about this witch wound, the witchy wound. And it's something that we both see in our work a lot. And Spirit's been really nudging us to work with it more and to really, I mean, if you know us, you know that we've been doing some smashing the patriarchy work for a while now. There's really been a deep calling within us to activate, our inner witchiness, right? And our priestessness and the inner magic that we know we have. And in doing that, really also bringing it into the fuller scope and going deep into it. So Ina and I have both been doing deep work at eradicating systems of patriarchy and misogyny and supremacy within us so that, we continue to open up to the fullness of what this is. And essentially, the deal is that over the last 5,000 years, the patriarchy has really maligned the energy of the witch, and this is a gaslighting. So we just want to be clear, like the witch was not always a negative thing, like the wicked witch, the witch with the pointy hat, the witch with the black cat, like this is all stuff that has come about as a result of collective gaslighting of the patriarchy and the patriarchal structure. Because way back, previous to 5,000 years ago, to about 3,000, it was about 2,500, 3,000 BCE that the patriarchy really sort of stepped into power. And before then, the witch energy was very sacred. The energy of the elder woman, the wise woman, was incredibly holy. She was respected. She was revered. She was honored. The word for crone actually comes from the word crown, and it signified the halo around the wise woman's head. The word hag actually comes from the word hagio, which means holy. And so going back to its origin, right? Like this was really, the energy of the witch was a very sacred container, and she held a very special place in society as the wise woman, as the healer, as the midwife, as the death doula, right? And not only that, but the woman who was postmenopausal was also in her sexual power. So there was a lot, she didn't have to worry about getting pregnant anymore, right? She was like, woohoo! Like, let's do
it. Game on!
Yeah. And so this was when the patriarchy started to assume control. This was all very threatening, right? Because it was the witch, right? The energy of the witch, the woman who held that position. It was her energy that was the most threatening to their power, right? So the fact that she was psychically stronger, right? These were the women who were in their full psychic power because they weren't having to take care of the children anymore. They weren't having to like manage the family anymore. Like, so they could like devote themselves to their spiritual expansion, their spiritual connection, and their psychicness. They could devote themselves to the healing arts. They had the time and they had the space to really, and the experience to really come into their power, right? And so as the men assumed control, the men were very frightened of the women that were in this stage of their development. The women who, you know, first of all, these were the women who took us through the process of death into the underworld, like the goddesses of the underworld, taking, you know, the soul of the people into the underworld, the psychopomp energy of the crone, and then allowing them to come through a process of rebirth. Now, the patriarchy sort of set up this system of like one God and a very judgmental God, a very critical God, a God with a lot of rules and regulations and a lot of like sin pitfalls, right? And within that, they needed to really create a lot of fear around death, right? So like, you know, the threat of hell is like very real. And so this was another reason why that energy of the witch, of the crone, that was, and not always the crone, there were younger witches, but it's very typical, right? I mean, basically the persecution of witches was the persecution of crones, right? I mean, essentially it was like, I mean, people are still afraid of old women. People are still afraid of old women. This is how deep it runs within us, you know? People still don't take care of old women. People still treat them as crazy and this and that. And if their hair is gray, it's like, whoa, right? Like, I mean, it is ingrained in us, you know? And we see it all the time. And so Ina was going to speak a little bit to that because it shows up in all of us. It shows up really in so many of us that are in this type, in the metaphysical spiritual realm, who are doing work in this realm.
Yeah. I mean, Janet and I both in our healing practice tend to work with people who are healers, people who have intuitive gifts that have been blocked, that have been shut down. And, you know, so often what's unfolding is either coming from their blood lineage in their family line or from their soul lineage of lifetimes that they've lived as healers, as medicine women, medicine men, that we were persecuted. You know, we were burned at the stake. We were, you know, I mean, I can't tell you how many times I go into healing sessions with people and there are metal contraptions and there are tongues pulled out and, you know, like all of the stuff from past lifetimes, like the level of torture devices and, you know, beheading and all of these things that healers and intuitives went through, truth speakers, who were doing good work in the world and being shut down for it. So, you know, and it so frequently shows up in the cutoff of expression of voice.
Yeah.
You know, that's the deepest one where we play small and we can't get our work out into the world. We can't, you know, like get on social media, all of that, where it's just, there's so much in the witch wound. I'm sure you feel that too, Janet, like how much gets shut down here and then, you know, like blockages in the third eye and then so frequently healers have sexual abuse and different forms of sexual trauma in early life and that causes an even deeper you know, the shutting down of everything.
Yeah.
You know, like you take away the power, you mess with with a woman's sexuality, like you violate her and you take away her power, right? So it's so much, but like we're here now at this time on the planet to, like, you know, to clear our ancestral, our bloodlines and, you know, and our soul lineage lines. And it's just phenomenal to me, the level of healing that's happening right now and how much bigger and deeper and broader the healing is going in individuals that is causing that witch wound healing in the collective.
Yeah.
So big.
Yeah, it's so big. And something too, that there are like so many extreme examples like what Ina shared. But I don't know if you found this too, there's a lot of more subtle examples that are that are still really intense. Like I've worked with so many people who maybe not a full-on persecutions coming up, but they were hiding in the woods. They lived in a hut out in the woods by themselves. They were afraid of being visible, right? Like this
Mm-hmm.
whole fear around visibility, which is connected to the throat chakra, right? Because
Mm-hmm.
you can't be visible in your expression. You can't be who you really are in the world, was a huge part of it. And it's a part of, so even if it wasn't, you weren't directly impacted by it in a previous incarnation, you were certainly alive in the energy of the persecutions, of knowing what would happen if you got caught,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
which is still traumatizing. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's been
So,
one for me a lot lately, in the silent violence that happens in
yeah.
the body, the silent violence that we grow up walking on eggshells around.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. And so it's no wonder, right, that so many healers and intuitives are so fearful of of showing themselves, of revealing themselves in the world. And as you mentioned before, like this is an energetic soul lineage. It's from on a soul level through incarnations, but it's also within the body. It's
Yeah.
also passed down ancestrally, right? And so there's something very it's energetic, and it's also very biological. There's a nervous
Mhm.
system response that happens, and we've put a lot of there's a lot of fear in the energy of witch, and there's a lot of fear in the energy of priestess, right? Like there's some sorceress, like like these are like things that we, even when we say them, we tend to put them out here, or have kind of like a, and even if we, even in a lot of people who honor them, right? Like even in a lot of people who are into it, there's still, I've noticed a separation where people will write to me and they're like, I'm not really comfortable with your use of the word witch or coven, right? Like, especially people who grew up in a Christian or Catholic um, religion, they don't feel comfortable with it, even though they're doing, they are it's a part of
Mhm.
who they are in the world, right? And so there's a judgment even against the self that's happening as a result.
And something that really came in for me in this full moon is the amount of unconscious misogyny that's
Yeah.
in all of our bodies,
Mm-hmm.
and that level of the misogyny that we hold within ourselves
Mm-hmm.
as men and as women, like that self-hatred, like the hatred of women actually, exists in us. So of
Mm-hmm.
course all
Yep.
of that is going to be playing out, where it's like, I can't be in my power, just, it's so deep.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so deep. And so part of what Ina and I really, and in our work together, a big part of what we have felt our calling to, and the direction that our work together is going in, is this reclamation energy, this reclamation of our divine witchiness, our inner magic, like being able to be like, fuck yes. I'm a witch. And whatever that looks like for you, like we're all different in our witch, and modern witch is going to be different than ancient witch. Like
Mm-hmm.
we live in
Mm-hmm.
cities now, a lot of us. I mean, some of us are going to be witches out in the woods, and that's awesome, right? And also we're going to have like urban witches, things are just really different now. So it's like being able though to find our own personal, like how does the resonance of witchiness, like what is that, my own personal inner magic, right? Like act like
Mm-hmm.
being able to be in touch with my inner magic, right?
Mm-hmm.
What does that mean for me? What does that mean for my expression in the world? What does that mean for how I want to show up and what I want to do? And so what does that reclamation look like for me? Because what it looks like for me is going to be different than what it looks like for Ina. Even though we're so similar, it's still going to have some differences to it. And it's going to have some differences to everybody else. But when we get into this space of reclamation and opening ourselves up to the potential and the possibility of what our soul came here to do through this physical body in this particular incarnation, And if you're watching this, and if you work with me and Ina, this is likely something that is important to you. It's something that speaks to you on a real cellular level. And so acknowledging that and then being in the space of really allowing yourself to open up to the potential that's available through this reclamation, right? Allowing yourself to claim who you are in all of your witchiness. So I feel like, I think Ina took me the other day. She's like letting your freak flag show, like that. Like, yes.
Yeah, and whether it's, witchiness or, whatever words, healer, shaman, alchemist, seer, knower, truth teller, just like really reclaiming the languaging that connects you back into that bigger truth of who you are, which is such pure unconditional love. Like this is us connecting back into that remembrance where us in our power as is the biggest act of love, us connecting into our gifts, us connecting into our intuition is the biggest act of love. And right now the planet needs us aligned with the love that we are more than ever. Like aligned is not in the divisiveness, like us not reclaiming who we are is keeping us in division. Whereas coming into that place of I know who I am is love coming forth on the planet right now to bring my medicine into the world, to bring my gifts into the world, to bring the bigness of this love that I have into the world, because that's the gift. That's the Wonder Woman archetype, like the Diana, like we're here to love.
Yeah, totally. It's like bringing
unstoppable love.
It's like allowing the warrior archetype to really work alongside the healer and the mother, right? Like bringing that nice, like we can all use a little bit of activation of that warrior energy, the warrior goddess within us, and to fuel the real tender, loving, nurturing aspects of us that as they are awakening, right? As they're awakening. I love that Mindy Wolf has said, I so relate to this. I'm going through a huge soul healing from so much of this. Like there are so many of us who are really in it right now. And it is like Ina was just saying, it is so important. It's such an act of self-love to allow yourself to be who you truly are, right? Without, having to live in fear of what you have been conditioned to be, right? And I want to say too, I recognize that in some ways there's a lot of privilege in what I just said. So I want to acknowledge that too. And even within the acknowledge of that, like what we can all do is we can all continue to do our own inner work and allow our inner work to inform and influence and support the work as it ripples out from us, right? Like this is something that we can all hold that container for. And Sarah saying that she's noticing that we are very similar and we're showing up with the different, I'm the earth witch and Ina's the water witch. And
I know we don't plan this.
And it was totally planned. Love that. So
Brigid.
Yes. Speaking of witches.
Yes. And powerful healing women.
Yes.
Want to share a little bit about who's been coming in and who we're celebrating on February 2nd?
Who's been tapping on our shoulders? Hitting us over the head with a sledgehammer?
Causing us to do great healing in ourselves.
Yeah. So Brigid, the Celtic triple fire goddess, has been like not so gently nudging me and Ina about our Imbolc activation, which is also Brigid's Day. So Imbolc is also known as Brigid's Day, and it's a cross-quarter day in the wheel on the wheel of the year. It's the midpoint between winter solstice and the spring equinox. And it's a day in which traditionally cultures have celebrated the emergence, like the early whispers of spring. And so we knew we were going to do an activation on this day. We've known for a while, and over the last couple of weeks, Brigid has not so gently informed us that we were going to do it over something very particular. So, do you want to speak to that?
Yes. So Brigid, February 2nd, being that halfway point between the winter solstice and the equinox, is that time where it's still, the darkness, we're still in the darkness, but the days are just starting to get longer. And Brigid is that goddess of the wells, of the clearing of the wells, of the water, which is all intuition and that internal connection to that like wellspring of flow within us. And she's also, the goddess of fire. So it's about relighting the hearth, in the darkness, as we're coming out of winter and into early spring. And so, but this is such a, it's such a magical, haven't quite emerged, like that time when we're really able to tap into our intuitive gifts. And so the medicine that's really coming through for this activation, Brigid has been with us, we are pulling back veils. We are awakening people, really connecting us into our gifts. This just feels like such a potent, juicy gateway, and which is why the witch wound has been coming up so much for us, and the releasing of all of that, because there's just this portal that we're coming into of the reclamation of the truth of who we are, the reclamation of ourselves as, as connected, intuitive, healer, and whatever that looks like for you. You can be a healer as a teacher. You can be a healer in your work. It doesn't mean that you're necessarily just doing session work with people. There's so many ways that our intuitive gifts show up in every profession, including being a mom, including being a friend, all of it.
Yeah. And Brigid, very, in the mythology, she was actually born with flame coming out of her crown chakra, right? I mean, there's so much power in that connection to spirit, that source connection. She's also a goddess of deep healing. And so she has really made it clear that this activation that we are doing is about opening ourselves up to our spiritual gifts, releasing the stuff that has been getting in the way, our attachments to patriarchal gaslighting, right? That we've been sort of hypnotized in over the course of our lifetime and over the course of many lifetimes, right? There's this multi-lifetime hypnotic suggestion gaslighting of that being a witch and being in your powers, your spiritual powers is something that's dangerous. And so really working to release those attachments and those threads, and also getting into that space of igniting the flame of inspiration and divine connection, and being able to, have that third eye opened and your crown opened, and to be able to be the receiver and the channeler of your gifts into the world, like Ina said, in whatever capacity that is. I mean, accountants can be healers. Anybody can have that healing and intuitive insight activated within them. And so no matter how left-brained you might think you are, right? You still have this ability. We're all born with it. It's just that we've been conditioned out of it, right? Over lifetimes. And so this activation is about breaking down that conditioning, decalcifying that gaslighting, basically. And then opening up. Yeah.
as you said, even as an accountant, I'm just like, how amazing is it when you find an accountant or an insurance agent or somebody that is in, that kind of,
Yeah.
more left brain world that is this like delicious, amazing healer person, and they're healing your taxes and they're making you feel so good when you're dealing with insurance, like that is so badass.
So badass. Oh yeah. So I mean, a big part of what we feel like our sort of our mission, right now is helping, all of us who are in this and who want to do it to open up and to connect to that. So even within that container, we created an all season witchy pass, which includes all of our activations for the entire year, held within the container of the wheel of the year, held within this container of providing you with deeper ritual, deeper connection, and to, as we move through this together, there's an energetic container that is constantly working its magic on you, like nonstop.
Yeah. And so in our DNA is this deeper connection to the turning of the wheel of the year. And if you're not familiar with that, that's, that deep ancestral, the pagan roots of connecting into the winter solstice, the spring equinox, every, the major turnings when light is equal dark and light, or longest nights. Like these are the portals where, ancient civilizations, built structures to align with the equinoxes and the solstices for a reason. And people would gather in ceremony at those times for a reason. And I've celebrated solstices and equinoxes since I was a teenager, and I raised my kids in these goddess traditions of really, connecting into the cycles of nature and the turning of the year. And so when we come together collectively during these potent cosmic portals, and we tap into the specific energy of that portal, the equinox, the solstice, Brigid, Samhain, around All Hallows Eve, all of those portals allow us, when we really connect in with what's happening in that particular cycle of the year, what's the energy that's coming through, the level of healing that happens in you is so much more amplified, which is exactly why Janet and I have created the all-season witchy pass for us to reclaim who we are as witches, and to take people through the container of the wheel of the year, of all the solstices, the equinoxes, the cross quarters in between, so that, because when you start connecting back into goddess cycles and earth cycles, that's when you actually start tapping into your true abundance. Yeah. That's when you start connecting back into the true prosperity that is syncing you back up to that connection to Mama Gaia that is so deeply in our DNA, but we've gotten so disconnected from in our like high-tech, distracted, out of nature world.
Yeah, there's a lot of power in that. There's a lot of power in being connected to the rhythms of the year, right? And it's something that we did as society for thousands of years, over the course of the human evolution or human experience here on Earth. And it's only been in the last couple hundred years, the last 100 and some years, that has changed, right? With larger urban developments and the advent of electricity. And so even though things are different and wacky now, we still benefit as humans by being connected to the cyclical nature that our bodies, like Ina said, all the way down to a DNA level, that our bodies know and respond to, right? And not only that, but these energetic gateways are like portals that for thousands of years, thousands and millions of people have been using these as days of connection, celebration, honoring of the deities. Like there's a lot of energetic juice on these days. They're very potent.
They're juicy days.
They're so juicy.
Energetic juice. So we invite all of you to join us for some energetic juiciness.
Yes.
Janet and I team up together to do these incredible channeled shamanic activations. We're doing one next Tuesday, February 2nd for Brigid at 1 o'clock Pacific, 4 o'clock Eastern. It's an hour-long it's like a deep healing transmission that activates things in you. So often we get responses from people, they start speaking light language, they have all kinds of like new gifts opening up. So we create an activated space. We're both in a channeled space, supporting you in like pulling back the veil, clearing out ancestral, karmic, trauma, all of that. And then really like that's our gift. Janet and I both is connecting people back in to those intuitive gifts that are their soul lineage, blood lineage. And so we're doing the Brigid activation next Tuesday. You can join us for that. Or you can join us for the whole Wheel of the Year, which is 10 activations that includes the Lionsgate activation, which is so amazing. Amazing. And so it's, you know, to commit to that container of the year where you're coming on board to follow every 6 weeks, you know, like the turning of the wheel of the year, connecting into what's happening in the natural world, in the cosmic world, in the collective world, and in the inner world all together. Like it's such a powerful process to be held in that space and to be held with a whole group of people that are going through that wheel of the year with you. All season witchy pass to get your witch on.
So we will drop a link to the Brigid activation in the comments here. You can get to the witchy pass through there too. We would love to see you. And we also have a Facebook group where every Friday we do, and we have one for those of you who are on live. We'll be doing one in very shortly. And that Facebook group is called Sacred Activation Journeys. And those are free mini activation calibrations and within the container of an amazing group of light workers, planetary shifters, healers, like intuitives, just awesome people. So
yes,
you're welcome to join us there too. So with that,
thank you, everybody. We hope you'll come play with us.
And we will hopefully see you soon. Take care.
Yes. Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
Comment below.